We'll call the January 18, 2022 meeting of the Johnston County Board of Commissioners to order. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight in attendance and also those watching on YouTube. Commissioner Dickey Braswell will not be here tonight. He sends his regards. As tradition, we will open with a prayer and a pledge. And I've asked Commissioner Godwin to say the prayer and Commissioner Smith for the pledge. If you'd please stand.
Let's pray. Father God, we're thankful for the blessings of this day. We're thankful for the blessings of being in Johnston County and for all the people in Johnston County working together to make this county a better place to live and work. As we come together tonight to be about the citizens' business, we ask for wisdom and courage. We ask you to bless everyone in Johnston County. Forgive us our shortcomings, for it's in your holy name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
In arms, I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first item on the agenda is approval and discussion of the agenda. Any amendments to the agenda? Motion to approve.
I move the agenda be approved as presented.
Second.
Now we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Agenda is approved. Next up, we have 4 items on the consent agenda. One is the Town of Clayton appointment to their Board of Adjustment. We also have a minute transcriptions, contract extension, and also a letter of support for RDU and their runway there from Triangle J, and also a proclamation for All in Red month from our Johnston Health Foundation. So those are the 4 items. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved to approve consent agenda items A through D as presented.
Second. All right, there's been a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Next up is public comments. If there's anyone in the audience who wishes to address the board on an item not already on the agenda, please come forward at this time, and please state your name and general location of residence. Anyone wishing to speak? If not, Madam Clerk, do we have any emails? No emails. Okay. Then we will move on to the 4th item on the agenda. We have Mayor Don Raines here to present a request from the town of Princeton for the US 70 I-42 letter of support. Good evening.
Thank you, Chairman Lauder. It's a privilege to address you as the chairman.
Well, thank you.
And congratulations to all the boards as they have come back together. And I certainly miss Dickey and hope to see him at the next meeting. We have a request to accelerate Interstate 42 construction through Princeton, and it's for various reasons. Part of it was what we became before the board in September and October. In front of you, you will see a resolution from the town of Princeton, from Johnston County Public Schools, from US 70 I-42 resolution, from actually the last board meeting, which Commissioner Godwin was a member of that group. And to give you some progress on what's going on in Princeton in regards to our drainage, is the downtown project is moving forward. We're having some issues with the railroad, which is something that no one would ever guess, but
Really?
we're moving forward. We have our permits, but we're moving forward on that project. Southern project, which y'all funded, is close to going out for bid. The specifications are together. It's just a matter of putting it out to the public for bid. And in our February meeting, we'll have a public hearing for adoption of a stormwater ordinance that will hopefully in the future all commercial, industrial, and subdivision will be required to have stormwater ordinance. So the future for floods or stormwater will be hopefully a better situation than we've had in the past few years. So I do have in front of you a slide presentation, and I'll try to move as fast as possible. We're looking at upgrades from Holtz Pond Road in Princeton all the way to the Goldsboro bypass, which is about 3 miles inside of Wayne County. These upgrades will complete the highway construction through most of the metropolitan areas in Johnston County. Clayton will be finished. Hopefully, Wilson Mills will be finished in the next 2 years. And Kinston will be the next one down the road. So ideally, there will be no stoplights from Raleigh to close to Kinston. The project currently is on schedule for right-of-way acquisition in 2025, with construction in 2027 through 2029. We're requesting for that to be accelerated in construction. The cost was somewhere around $264,000, $264 million. And basically, there's a lot of land acquisition, and a lot of construction related to this project. Next is actually where Cloverleaf will come in, where 70 and 70A is. It will eliminate a lot of congestion in that area, and frankly, that's where a lot of wrecks have been. Moving further east, there will be a diamond intersection at where the Bojangles Handy Mart is, and that will be our 2 intersections for Princeton. Then it will connect into Wayne County. Part of the reason to accelerate it is from October 2017 through September of 2021, there have been 184 accidents, 5 fatalities, and 89 non-fatal injuries. And since the 1st of December, there's been at least 5 wrecks and 1 fatality of a 10-year-old student at Princeton Elementary School. And I will comment that approximately 10 years ago, Commissioner Vicki Braswell's daughter was a fatality at one of these intersections as well. Princeton Middle School has had significant flooding because the culverts under 70 Highway have not met the needs of the school. Homes have flooded in around 70 Highway, which was on the presentation that we had back in October. So you'll see the 70 Highway currently acts like a dam around the northern end of town because water cannot flow to the river properly, which is about a mile north. So through this construction, there will be larger culverts under the highway to accelerate the water flow. We have $1.8 million in needs. That's around 70 Highway, I-42, and $750,000 has been funded from the General Assembly for the school. There's still some more local needs around that area, but most of it's related to the highway, and if the acceleration were to move forward, it will eliminate much of the flooding. There is $7.2 billion in additional North Carolina roads funding through the federal infrastructure bill that passed Congress, and we're wanting to designate part of that funding to go towards the Princeton project and also the Kinston project. They have flooding issues there, and it's a big bottleneck through Kinston if you're headed east. And there's a resolution from the 70 Corridor Commission for Princeton and the Kinston project as well. We're all part of the commerce of Johnston County. So we would encourage your resolution, and attached is a copy of the resolution that the town passed, as well as the resolutions that you have in front of you. I will be going to Wayne County and Wayne County Public Schools as well for a resolution to be passed. I have two commissioners with me, Mayor Pro Tem Mike Rose and Commissioner Michael Holmes, and they're here for support. And do you have any comments, Charles? And Marla Ashworth, our town administrator. Does anyone have any comments or any questions or?
Any
Mr.
questions?
Chairman, I've
Yes, sir.
got some comments, if I may, because I have been a member of the Highway 70 Corridor Commission representing Johnston County for probably 8 years now, and chaired it for a couple of years. But I notice in the existing timeline that the DOT has put together for these projects, you know, if the timeline consisted of multiple things that had to be done that you just can't squeeze together, I could understand not accelerating it. But in their timeline, the things of getting design approval and that sort of thing is 2021. The next thing that takes place is right-of-way acquisition, and that doesn't start to 2024. So there's ample room to push this thing together, and there's a lot of reasons to do it. You know, in their resolution that the Highway 70 Corridor Commission adopted, it points out the fact that terrain down east, including Princeton, is flat. The water slows down and stays a long time. And they've not only have flooding, but they have continual flooding. It lasts a long time. So I don't see a reason why we shouldn't support this resolution on behalf of Princeton as well as things downstream like Kinston.
Any other comments?
No, Mr. Chairman, I move to adopt the resolution.
Have a motion?
I second it.
Second. Any other comments? All in favor of passing the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I will add, I know that Commissioner Godwin had mentioned downstream, and I know Kinston has a similar request, and I think that for us and the commerce associated with that and the benefits to Johnston County, if we get a request from the town of Kinston and or Lenoir County, that we would definitely consider doing the same as we've done here. So, and thank you for bringing this to us.
Thank you, and I'll make sure Durwood Stevenson was planning to be here, and he had a conflict that came up at the last minute, but I'll see if Durwood can. I'm also vice chairman of the 70 Corridor Commission, and if there's time, if you want to make a second resolution in that regards, that can be given to the commission if you just want to, by consent or however you like.
Are you talking about for Kinston? Yeah, we'll wait to get the request from them. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, next up we have an update from the Capital Area Workforce Development Board. There we go.
I guess I'll take this off so you can hear me. Good evening. Good evening. First, I'd like to start by thanking you for giving us the opportunity to do a quick update on the Capital Area Workforce Development Board. I'm Pat Sturdivant, and I'm the Executive Director of the Workforce Board. Joining me for the presentation will be Brian Holland, who is our board chair. He's also general counsel for Global Knowledge. And I have one other board member joining us this evening. That's Tom White, sitting over there in the corner. Oh, Deborah, you take me in? Okay. So Tom White. Tom is on our executive committee and a longtime board member, and he's also executive director of economic development at NC State. And you just heard from Deborah Boleyn. She's also on our board. And also serves as the chair for our youth, Johnston County Youth Advisory Council.
Welcome.
So next slide. So workforce boards, there are actually 23 workforce boards in North Carolina, and Capital Area Workforce Development Board is one of those 23 boards. Every county in North Carolina is associated with the workforce board. Capital Area is responsible for workforce services in Wake and Johnston County. And as I'm sure you're aware, Lee and Chatham County has requested to join the Capital Area Workforce Development Board, and we really hope you support that request. We see that as a win for all involved, because when we think of our key objectives as a board, which is to ensure that businesses in our region have access to a qualified pool of talent to meet their hiring needs, and that job seekers have access to access to training and education to make them competitive for those opportunities. So we see this as broadening our access to job seekers for those businesses to help them fill their hiring needs, and also providing a broader base for our job seeker customers to access family-sustaining careers. You could go back to the first slide. So we are federally funded and mandated by the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. So we get the majority of our funding for the services that we provide from the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. But as a workforce board, we have a strategy of looking for other funding, so we're always applying for federal, state, and local grants to help supplement the work that we do. When you think about our primary responsibility as a workforce board, one of our primary responsibilities is to provide the oversight, management, and strategic direction of our NC Works Career Center in our local area. So for Johnston County, we have our Adult Career Center is in Clayton, North Carolina, and it serves as the hub for the workforce services that we provide. It also serves as a location for other partners to co-locate with us, as well as refer between partners. We also have a youth center, which is called our NC Works Next Gen Center. For Johnston County, our location is in Clayton. I had that backwards. The adult center is in Clayton, and the youth center is in Smithfield, and it's operated and run by Johnston County Industries. And for our youth center, our primary focus is to support opportunity youth, and those are youth that have barriers to employment. One of our key strategies as a workforce board is to ensure that any individual that needs our services or want to have access to our services have that access. So in 2018, we actually initiated what we call our Access NC Works Contact Center. And what that is, it allows individuals that want and need to access our services to access them virtually by telephone, chat, internet knowledge base. And just this year, we implemented a texting function where we can have constant communication with our job seekers and them with us through text messaging. As a workforce board, we wear many hats, and as you all know, there's not one organization that can address all the challenges or all the needs of our workforce system. So it's important to us that we are in constant communication with all the partners in our system: education, economic development, community-based organizations, and pulling them together so that we can leverage each other's resources to address the needs of our customers. Our workforce board is business-led. We're required to have 51% of our membership from the private sector, so 51% of our members. We have a 25-member board. 51% are from the private sector, and the other 49% are from education. We have K through 12, we have a community college, and we have NC State represented on our board. Other members include apprenticeship, labor, and other community-based organizations that have a mission related to workforce development. Next slide.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Do you mind if I'm interrupting? If Lee and Chatham were combined, would that board change? Would the makeup of that board change, the number change?
Yeah, the number would change, and we're actually talking about that this week. We would have to most likely increase the number of seats on the board. And what we do is we base the number of representatives on each county based on the funding allocation percentage. Right. And so just to give you an example, when we looked at Lee and Chatham County, they had a total of 3,000 people unemployed for 2 counties. So they make up something like 4% and 7%. So we see that at, not worst case scenario, but at the largest, we would have to add 3 seats to the board to make sure they're represented, because we want to make sure all counties are represented.
Right, okay.
And that leads to my next slide, is
Thank you.
just to identify the Johnston County Board members currently. We have Deborah Boleyn that I just introduced, as well as Dr. David Johnston, recently rejoined the board, and we're really happy to have him represented on our board to keep us intact with what's going on with Johnston County, and especially with Johnston Community College. We have Harold King, who is president of KS Bank. We have Michelle Norris, who is with House Archery. She's the HR manager. We have Daniela Sardo, who is, her title is a little long, but she's people and, I don't have my glasses, I'm sorry.
Organization.
Director of People and Organization at Nova Nordics. We also have Glenda Underwood, who's talent acquisitions with Lowe's. They have a location in Johnston County. And Cindy Wade, who's president and CEO of Essential Staffing. So it's important to us that we have Johnston County represented on the board, so when we're working on strategies, we're including what's needed for both counties. Next slide, please. One of the primary purpose of a workforce development board is to support economic development through workforce development solutions and services. And we do that by ensuring that all the strategies and services that we put in place support our workforce development board mission. And we have 5 key components to that mission, which is to create a highly effective workforce system, provide employers with productive skilled workers, offer citizens training and employment opportunities, promote job satisfaction and economic vitality, and enable all citizens to contribute to the prosperity of the community. So we keep that in the back of our mind when we're developing our strategies, when we're implementing our services, and so on. So with that, Brian is going to come up and he's going to talk a little bit about what our key strategies have been for the last couple of years and some highlights from our last program year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. As Pat said, I'm Brian Holland. I'm General Counsel at Global Knowledge, which is a worldwide IT training company that's got our global headquarters in Cary, North Carolina. And I used to be a Johnston County resident. I was going to say not too long ago, but it was a while back. And I miss it. I love being back here. So with regard to, if we can move to the next slide, as Pat said, we have a 3-year plan, and we have different strategic areas of focus in every 3-year plan. During the past 3 years, and that 3-year term is ending this year, we focused on 3 particular areas: customer success. And when we talk about our customer success, we're not just talking about job seeker customers, but we're talking about businesses as well. And in fact, much of our focus has been on our business customers. We also have an outreach group. The outreach focus is about making sure people are aware of the services that we offer and that we are offering those services to as many people, as many businesses in Johnston and Wake County as we can. And then we have a sector initiatives focus, because workforce development is local, inherently local. And while most of our funding is federal, there's not a one-size-fits-all. What works in California is not going to work in North Carolina, not going to work in Johnston County. And so we focus on the sectors that right now are most important in terms of creating the most growth and greatest opportunities in Johnston and Wake counties. If we can move to the next slide. Actually, if we can skip this slide as well. I want to move to a good news, bad news story. And that is, we've seen decreases in our funding over the last 3 years. That's the bad news. The Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act is where we receive the bulk of our funding. And the funding for adult workers and dislocated workers has shrunk over the past 3 years. Now, with the pandemic and with the tightening labor markets, we're seeing an increased need for our services, but we've been seeing a decrease in funding. One of the things that we have been doing to address that, as Pat has indicated to you, is we are seeking funding outside of normal sources. We're seeking grant funding, other opportunities for funding, working with private employers in the area in order to offer our programs and more programs with a decrease in funding. And if you can move to the next slide, it's interesting that with less money, we are definitely reaching more people. The people who have been reaching out the capital area has increased dramatically over the last 3 years. Now, a good deal of the last program year was driven by the pandemic and a great deal of unemployment that we saw, but that's not the only reason. One of the things that we've done, as Pat indicated to you, is increased our ability to provide services remotely. You no longer have to come physically to one of our NC Work Centers or youth centers in order to receive services, and we've seen that as a way to provide more services to more people, more businesses with less funding. If we can move to the next slide, please. Specifically in Johnston County in the last program year, we addressed 8,300 work seeker customers. And 65.4% of those people who came to us for help, according to the Department of Labor, were on payrolls at the time they gave us the report. And because this is a lagging indicator, we actually think that number is significantly higher. We also serve 221 Johnston County youth through our youth programs. We can move to the next slide. We also have a number of high-touch programs. We work with Johnston County Community College. We work with local employers for work-based learning. We work with apprenticeships, and we work with ex-offenders through our reentry programs. The numbers for last program year were low. The high-touch programs are inherently physical, and because of the pandemic, that hampered our ability to deliver. If you have us here next year, these numbers will be higher. If we can move to the next slide, I'd like to address some of the highlights that we've seen in Johnston County over the last program year. One of the most important things that I think we did was partner with the Selma Public Library, where we have our standard workforce center in Clayton, just a little bit west of Griffles. But there's a whole rest of the county out here. And one of the things that we're able to do is work with the library in Selma to bring some of those same workforce job center programs in person to the library to address people in the Selma area and make it easier for them to receive services. We've also, through our Youth Advisory Council, created the Joco Connectors Mentoring Program. And this is a mentoring program that is being run through that program with Smithfield Selma High School, and we're very excited about that. And also, as Pat mentioned, we have our youth center right here down on 301, right across the street from the Enterprise Rental Car facility. And that's a brand new center. It's high-tech. It's updated, and we're hoping that not only does it provide us with the ability to provide more and better services, but it being more attractive, we will be bringing more people to that program. We can move to the next slide. I'm going to toot our own horn a little bit. We've received the National Award from the National Association for Workforce Boards because of our innovative programs, and that's what we're excited about, being able to bring to the citizens of Johnston County. And if we can move to the next slide. We talked about the past, but I think more important is the future. And we're moving into our new program year. And our plan focuses for the next 3 years are going to be really focused on economic mobility, because we're very concerned by the fact that in Johnston County, in Wake County, the numbers look great. Unemployment is low, wages are rising, and a lot of that is because people are moving to the area and they're bringing the jobs with them. We want to make sure that the people who are here now and who have always been here also get to participate in that growth, and that's one of the things we're going to really be focusing on at Capital Area. And the other focus is going to be the tightening labor market. We have businesses who are having incredible difficulty finding, attracting, and retaining talent. And we're going to be working with those business customers about finding creative ways to address those problems and to make sure we are properly reskilling the populations that are here now, so they're going to be prepared for the jobs that are coming here and will be here in the future. And with that, I thank you very much. And if you have any other questions, we'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you. Any questions at this point?
Mr. Holland,
Yes.
maybe I got a disconnect somewhere, which occasionally happens to me. But finding workers in Johnston County and me as a business owner. We don't find the labor market out there willing to work. Quite frankly, I can't hire people. My friends in business can't hire folks. You go by every fast restaurant you see on their board says help wanted. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the major problems that we're focusing on. Do we have all the answers? Absolutely not. One of the things that we're looking at is what are called hidden workers. And one of the program initiatives that we had through our Customer Success Committee was with dealing with mature workers and trying to give them the skills to feel comfortable re-entering the market. So, yeah, so there's a group of people who wants to work, who doesn't feel comfortable working, and we're hoping to develop programs to help with that. But there are a lot of issues that you're addressing, and I have to agree. There is no silver bullet to that, but we're trying to look for situations and programs and training opportunities to help make people feel more comfortable coming into work, giving them the skills where they are helping small business owners in a way that is useful. Because one of the things that we have seen and what we hear from small business owners, not just small business owners, is that people are coming, but they don't want to work, they don't have the skills, they don't show up on time, and we have programs that address that, and that's one of the reasons we also reach out to youth, to help develop those skills while they're in school, and hopefully they'll carry through.
when you use the phrase provide services, define what you mean.
Well, we're limited in some ways what we can do with some of our funding, and I also invite Pat, who can speak to these things a lot better than I can. We provide training, we develop programs, and Pat, I don't know if you want to address this.
Yeah, so we have services, we try to meet the individual where they are. So we can provide training scholarships, if it's occupational skills training that they need. We provide work-based learning, where if the employer is willing to hire the person, we'll support a portion of their salary while they're being trained. We have workshops regularly in our Career Center job readiness workshops to address some of the soft skills that Brian mentioned. And so it's really meeting them where they are and trying to put a plan in place that's going to support them. We also provide wraparound support services. So if the reason they can't initially get to work or get to school is because they don't have transportation, then we can cover the cost for transportation. On a limited basis for our youth participants, if they can't get there because they've got childcare issues, we can support childcare. So it's really meeting that individual where they are and putting a plan in place to support them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions?
I have one, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I'm trying, when I read through the material, I think Pat said earlier there was 23 workforce development boards in the state, and I can see the rationale behind reducing that on a regional basis, and it would make sense for Lee and Chatham because of other tie-ins. But how does this mechanism work? Is who has the yay or nay? I noticed a letter in here to the Wake County asking their permission. Is that also up to Johnston County and the commission that you talked about?
So what the process, Wake County is the chief elected official for the local area. So we have a consortium agreement. So ultimately, it's up to the chief elected official, but that chief elected official wants support for any of the counties that's in the region to support that effort. And then the two counties, both of their commissions have to agree that they're going to move. And they approached us, so they both put resolutions in place to join us.
Right. Okay.
Anything else from the board? Thank you, Mr. Sturdivant, and Mr. Holland. Thank you for what the Capital Area Workforce Development does for Johnston County and continued success for those people who want to be employed and for those looking to employ people in Johnston County.
And we appreciate your support and
Right.
look forward to being able to continue serving the businesses and citizens of Johnston County.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Board, you have a request in your information packet for a letter of support for Lee and Chatham County joining the Capital Area Workforce Development Board. And I hear a motion to approve that resolution, or letter of support.
I move that we approve that letter.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. All right, next up, we have a report from Ms. Slusser for refunds of excise tax.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion, we grant the refund of these excise taxes.
Second.
So do we have a motion in the second, but I believe we may need some, for legal reasons, at least some presentation.
Thank you for that support. The statute requires that we have a hearing on the matter, and I don't see that there's anyone here to speak on that. These requests do meet the standards of the statute, and I would appreciate a vote in the affirmative to approve these excise tax requests.
So if I consider that the discussion, then we have a.
Can I make my motion
We have a
now?
motion and a second on the
And then
floor.
in that discussion, Mr. Chairman, this is because it was filed in error, in the wrong.
The first one, it was recorded twice in Johnston County, and the second one, the excise tax was paid twice, once in Wilson County and once in Johnston County.
Okay.
All right, anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Who's giving everybody money?
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
All right, next up, we have manager's report and comments. Mr. Hester, good evening.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, everybody. I've got three things. The first thing I want to mention is that our team will be monitoring the weather here in the next few days. Our emergency management team has calls with the National Weather Service 2 or 3 times a day as you approach these storms, so we'll be keeping you posted on that. Secondly, a few months ago, the board authorized the staff to do a request for qualifications for a countywide water and wastewater review to see what kind of opportunities there might be to work together. We all work together now, but what are some ways we might can leverage assets and work together and help each other? So that process went through. We have Mr. J.D. Solomon has been assisting with that project, and if it's okay, I'd ask you if he could come up and just share a few things about quarterbacking this project and the proposal.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Mr. Solomon, you have the floor.
Commissioners, good to see you guys. Appreciate the opportunity to work with y'all on this. I've been here a long time in the county and have done this kind of work at the state and the national level, so it's good to be able to do it and get it right for the home county. We have worked with, we took the qualifications, as Mr. Hester mentioned. We got down to the short list and chose Black & Veatch to negotiate further. Any of the 3 firms that submitted would have been great. Black & Veatch has had a little edge in a few categories. We negotiated with them, and we've got it down to the proposal that's in front of you. We're asking you for your support tonight. We had a few issues we've been talking to them about today and got some minor modifications in the contract with that. So I think the nuts and bolts of that are before you. We will start this process as soon as you guys approve it, and we'll start that with a kickoff meeting. We are aware of some of the sensitivities whenever I do this kind of work. Regionalization can mean a lot of different things. It can mean just partnering and sharing resources or emergency interconnection, or it can mean full merger and consolidation. We have no preconceived notions of that going into this type of study. We're going to start this with just looking at pumps and pipes and water and wastewater demand, and we'll bring back to you after we've looked at some of those issues. We'll bring back to you probably a short list of ones to look at a little bit deeper if you guys choose to do so. So that's kind of where we're at, and I'll stop there. Questions?
One thing on that. Yeah. One thing that we did talk about today is, and we could just make a minor adjustment in that agreement, is that it says that if we think that all the towns are going to participate, there's been conversation about it, but in case there wasn't, there would be a credit for that, for the work that the group's doing as they look into their systems, and we'd like to just add private utilities into that as well. So that would be the only amendments.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I'm missing, did we have a proposal, or did we get a proposal in our package?
I think you,
I think one was emailed, and then there's a copy of one that I think it's replaced there.
One footnote probably dated January 6th, I believe, and then another one dated today's date that we had to modify.
and I think this was at the request of the board. Was it in last fall or summer?
Somewhere in that time frame.
Yeah, so,
Mr. Chairman, and everybody agreed on 4 months? I mean, that seems kind of aggressive to me. Do we think we can get through this with the municipalities, with the county, and put some kind of vision together of what direction we ought to all be in 4 months?
It is aggressive, but keep in mind, this is just phase one.
Just
This is
phase one.
just that, pull it all together and understand it. The next part will be more the financial part and the legal part. We'll touch on that.
Gotcha.
Honestly, there's probably another, a phase 1B or 2A that goes with that, because you've got a lot of workforce things to consider, you've got a lot of legal things to consider, finance, environmental, and we just don't know, Commissioner, what all we're going to find. But we think if we stretch it out too long, we'll lose our momentum, so we're going to aim at 4 months.
So this service agreement is just phase one.
That is correct.
So, okay.
Part of that, too, to follow on with that, is if we can screen this as a county with the different entities, at some point, the county can still be the neutral broker of some of this, but if Benson and Four Oaks decide to get together, they maybe have several enterprise funds, that becomes kind of their business to decide how they want to regionalize. And so I think that's really the driver if we look at different phases as to what may happen. It'll depend on their enterprise funds.
So I guess it just depends on if everybody's master plan intersects somewhere and everybody can go forward with the same vision as far as supply and demand.
Yes, and it is water and wastewater, so if we agree on one, we may not agree on the other one, so.
Well, I know we depend on some municipalities for different utilities, whether it's water or or wastewater. And I mean, the only hang up I could see on this is somehow losing some capacity or some services provided by this agreement not being agreed upon by all applicants or whatever.
Yeah, again, we hope just to map it out and set up the kind of the quality of life for the county and the economic development and environmental pieces. And then those nuts and bolts will come much later when we get into the enterprises.
I think we'd be a lot stronger in the future if some way we could face this together as a county.
Mr. Chairman, I think Commissioner Wood makes a good point. That is an aggressive schedule, but you also make a good point. If we don't get started and push it, it falls by the wayside.
Mr. Solomon, in the fee schedule there, I guess we're assuming that some of the towns will buy in additionally to this fee schedule, or is it just what we're going to pay?
This will be funded out of the county's general fund, from my understanding. And again,
That's right. Whenever this went out there, this was not in the utilities budget, so we agreed to fund it out of general fund.
Okay, so the wording about if one or other towns agree not to participate, then the price of this will lower?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
That was one of the amendments.
Okay.
Meaning if they just don't give us information and they say, why are you still charging that if two of us are sitting out, we want to be able to justify it to the public. The reality is the consultants still have to understand the whole county map anyway. So it's probably not a big deduct, but we gotta be responsible.
I understand.
So the ask of the municipalities is buy-in and data.
To participate and to give us the data and to go further. I'll tell you, I did this in Wake County, when the Wake County was did 20 years ago, and at that point, the county didn't have a utility. They were just being the honest broker of the overall thing, so they funded it out of their general fund. And that worked very well, because then you couldn't accuse somebody of one enterprise trying to get advantage of another. And that's how you guys are doing it here with your general fund. And
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Commissioner Smith.
first off, I have utmost confidence in J.D. Solomon. We go back a long time, told a lot of lies to each other, but that's a joke. But I believe our wastewater in this county is one of the 5 or 6 most pressing problems and most important problems. And I just have a hard time passing something or entering into an agreement where we've had no discussion, have had this, I guess it was email, but I was out of state, so I missed that and was not part of our package. And I think this is too important an issue as to how we go about this, what we pay for it, and where we want to end up to pass instantly without any discussion, without any time to study this. It's just not, in my opinion, the right way to do business.
I appreciate what you're saying. I think we have had discussions on it for several months. I mean, this just came together in the last few days, the contract. I don't think the concept of us looking at a regional approach is foreign to, shouldn't be foreign to any of this board.
I agree with that. We talked about this was important. We wanted to do a regional approach. I'm all for that. I just think we ought to talk about what's in this agreement and what it means and how we're going to go about it. That's all I'm saying, Mr. Chairman.
I understand it. As you said, I put my faith in first in Ms. Farmer and Mr. Hester and then Mr. Solomon that, as with any other contracts, I don't know that we go through and read every contract we have. So I feel that staff and our consultant has done a great job of putting it together. And this is just the first step. I mean, all this is basically a gathering of a bunch of information to see what we have. It's not any committing to any direction. It is just going forward. And I think, as you said many times, the limited resource we have with water and with the sewer capacity, that for this county as a whole, individual towns to grow, whether that's residential, commercial, retail, industrial, we have to have a plan to move forward. And the plan may be we still operate like we're doing now, but I think we need to get started, combine this with our land use plan. It needs to be kind of a seamless transition.
Butch, I agree with that. And we've been, and like you said, in concept, we've been talking about this for months. And I don't know where 1 or 2 weeks to have a chance to review this and talk about this is going to create any delay or any problem.
What do you not understand about it?
I don't understand anything because I hadn't read it.
Okay, and that's fair, and I understand that, and I agree with that. And based on the chairman, we started talking about looking at regionalization some 2 years ago.
I'm not against the,
Yeah, so
you don't understand. I'm all for the concept. I think it's so important. That's the reason I'm talking about it. I just want us to get it right.
So let me kind of cut to the chase here, and I think I can wrap this up. But we had discussion 2 or 3 months ago that if we didn't get something in time and one commissioner wanted to take another meeting to take a look at it, and we're talking 2 weeks, not 2 months, then I don't have a problem with this whole board. And I haven't read every word of this thing, so I do not have a problem with us waiting to the first meeting in February to the entire board has had a chance to look at it to their satisfaction and
My
make
only
sure.
problem is we talk about that aggressive time frame, and that's the problem with the public sector sometimes. It just takes so long to get anything done. I'm ready to move on.
I understand.
I'm ready to move on it.
This is not right. I didn't see this till tonight. This was not part of my board package. I read my board package. The fact that this was sent out in an email, I don't think I was in a truck for 4 days last week on the way to Montana and back. I wasn't looking at emails. When I got back, I had COVID. And so, had to get through that. And to think that I don't even have a chance to read this before I'm required to vote on it, that's wrong.
Mr. Chairman, before we set it aside or whatever we decide to do with it, you mind if I ask a few more questions? Okay, so phase one this is a service agreement for phase one. How many phases do you anticipate? I know you said financial.
Two was what was in the request for proposal to the consultants last fall.
Okay,
So there were 2 phases. One, this first phase, that looked at mainly pumps and pipes and the engineering parts, and then the second phase is the details once we get the short list.
Okay, so this, help me understand, is this engineering service agreement is just one phase that's going to be voted up or down on for Black and Beach, and the financial part is something that's going to come before us again to be voted on, or is this
Yes.
entangled together?
Yes. No, it's not. It's separable. We picked the firm based on total qualifications to finish all phases. So that's how they've been picked.
Okay.
But we intentionally kept the phase. If somebody doesn't perform or doesn't meet your schedule or your satisfaction, we'll get the next consultant
We
to
have
come in and
out
finish it.
on
We
the
have
financial part.
Yeah, in financial, legal, Jennifer will have to be involved. There'll be a lot of things if these things get a little further down the road that you guys will have to consider, as you know. But yeah, we can get rid of the consultant if we need to after this phase.
Thank you.
All right, we don't have a consensus, so did I hear a motion one way or the other?
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve their proposal.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye. Or if you would raise your
Probably raise.
right hand on this one. Motion carries 4-2. All right. Rick, does anything? Yep.
The last thing I have is an update from a committee that was put together to evaluate employee benefits consulting work. And on that committee, and I want to thank Commissioner Harris, Vice Chairman Harris, for being on that, and all the time he spent with that. And we also had Jennifer Slusser, Chad McClam, Lou Hickey, Melody Proctor, and myself. And it was the original concept was to do a request for qualifications in terms of not based on low bids or anything of that nature, but a request for qualifications. Who would be best to continue administering that program for the county? JRW was the firm that's been doing it for Johnston County. So it was a good thing to go out there and do this process. One of the things that, even though it was a request for qualifications, I remember the board at one of the last couple of meetings wanted to make sure that not only was qualifications discussed, but also pricing and that kind of thing. I think Mr. Smith brought that up. So we started out and brought firms in and did interviews. A lot of them, if not all of them, were done Zoom, and narrowed it down, and then went back through another process of evaluating fees and things of that nature, which I've learned is a very complicated process, trying to understand that. So with all that said, and a lot of times on these requests for qualifications, it may be that the firm that the committee recommends may not have the lowest fees. They're comparable, but at the end, the other part of this process is the claims portion. We're self-insured. So what can be done to help the county's claims process being self-insured? And that's a very big part of this as well. So with all that said, it was the recommendation of the committee to continue with JRW and Associates as single source provider and to revisit this process again in the next 5 or 6 years, as I think it's a very good process to have. And there may be other folks, Mr. Vice Chairman Harris or others that were on the committee that may want to add to that, so.
Mr. Harris? Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, it was a very thorough process, and I just want to commend the staff, Melanie and Lou and Rick and Jennifer. I mean, they really went in depth on this and asked, frankly, very pointed questions to all these firms and really dug down to the depths of what we could do. And I really think the process served very well. But there's a lot of factors that go into this, and I think Mr. Hester has outlined those well. You know, we've got a company that's been in place for 20 years plus, and to transition over to another company is in and of itself a project that would take a lot of staff time and a lot of work to do. In addition, there was no factors in their proposal for any increases in fees, if I remember correctly. So there was just all those things coupled together. We just felt like that JRW was, you know, they've done a good job. They've got a good relationship. All our data is there. We don't have to transition to a new system. If we go to a new system, there's fees to go to a different employee base benefit system. So I think the recommendation is good. So the committee's done a great job, and thank you, all of you, for your work on it. It was a tiring process, but we got through it.
Mr. Harris, remind me, is our stop loss at 125% on our Seth claims?
If you don't mind, I might defer on that to Ms. Proctor.
150,000. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
just out of curiosity, I know we have dealt with some different service providers. Out of this whole scenario of looking and from qualifications to fees to services, with the current rep that we're using, forgive me for not knowing their name right off the top, JRW, were we able to negotiate any better rates or any more services? I know you mentioned that the fees are not going up. Is that something that was produced out of us asking the questions, or was that already in place? I mean, how with this process? I know you say it's been has it been 20 years since we looked at these services and rates and.
Qualifications, and I started in 1998. So we've been with the same broker since that time. What they did prior to that, I don't know. And our fees have never changed with JRW since we've been here. Their fees have been paid through commissions through our carriers, which is pretty much standard throughout the industry. So that's kind of where we are with that piece.
I guess my question is I know it's prudent to do this every now and then, but I don't know what kind of problems or what kind of situations. If we've been with them since 1988, you can go to one of our county employees and say, this is something, tell me something you would like to be improved on. And I'm sure every one of them's got somewhat of the same top 10 items. were we able to adjust? Were we able to pinpoint these items and make changes to anything, or
One of the things is that's really been a true benefit with us working with JRW. We have found through this process that they have kept us in the forefront of things. We talked to countywide counterparts, statewide, counterparts that are still doing the open enrollment process by hand. We have been doing it electronically since 2008. That's something that JRW brought to us beforehand. They're also looking at changing our benefit administrating system to be able to hopefully interact with or integrate with our payroll system so we can have less manual labor and less chance of errors. So that's one of the things that they have done proactively for us to be able to do that. And during this process, we did talk to them as fees were important. The other two that were finalists that we looked at included increases. There was one who said, you know, if the county employees got an increase of X, then they would expect an increase of X. So, you know, we do have that commitment from JRW that they're going to stay flat, where the others were looking to have increases throughout the process, throughout years to come.
Thank you.
Is that a 5-year, under the 5-year look we're going to take, so the fees are going to be the same for the next 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? All right, any other comments from you? Any other items?
No, I would just, speaking on behalf of the committee, we just want to recommend that to the board for approval.
Can we do that by consensus, or do we need a formal motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the study's recommendation.
All right.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for committee for the hard work. All right, board reports and comments. Commissioner Smith, any?
I'm going to make a motion that we go in closed session at the appropriate time.
Okay. Mr. Wood.
My only comment would be, if there's some way we can, maybe, I guess our next thing, if you let Braxton know to give us a update on the land study. Just brief, just how things are going and where they're at in the process. Thank you.
Commissioner Brazel.
Mr. Chairman, I was over at JCC today as part of the fire study group over there in regards to our academy, our fire academy, and the cadet academy over there. And so this year they're going to add, as part of the training, EMT. So when a cadet graduates, that he will have the necessary hours to apply for licensing for EMT, which is a great opportunity. And I think they're doing a great job over there. Of course, those who have been around a while, I know Chief Patrick over there was part of the fire academy and their fire studies over there. And so, you know, they're really expanding. We did look at a site plan for renovating that land back there at the back. It depends on conditions of some of the soils that's been in there, but I think we got a real growing academy over there doing great things for Johnston County citizens. So, you know, if any fire department out there listening, here comes the commercial. You know, we got a great academy over there. So, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could I ask a question pertaining to that? There was a couple of high schools involved at one time. Are they still doing the fire training for the high school kids? Do you know? I know Clayton.
I think Clayton still has their program.
Good.
Triple S has one also.
Okay.
Yeah, they do, and so this is where they can go and get all the courses in the blocks, and so that used to be all fire, but now they've added the EMT block to it. So, in response to the fire departments who say, "Hey, if we can get a fully trained person in both fire and EMT, that will really help us out."
Is that optional to those students?
No, it's not optional.
Okay.
Commissioner Harris.
Yes, on that note, and then one other additional, the EMT program and that entire program is just a true vital process for this county. I mean, they do a lot of tremendous training for the public safety sector here. And in addition to that, there's a real need for a virtual hospital. And so I've got some ideas going forward, maybe at our planning retreat that I'll be mentioning to you, perhaps utilizing one of the buildings at DSS once that location has been changed and those buildings are vacated, that perhaps that would be a location that we could look at a virtual hospital for the college. The challenge now is, with COVID especially, is the ERs and all that are inundated with patients. They don't have time to let students come through and get their practical training. So a virtual hospital would really be an asset to be able to do that, not only for the nursing program, for the EMTs, paramedics, any of the medical, clinical work out there at the college. That would be a tremendous asset. The other thing I wanted to add too is during the course of the process of the insurance broker process, we had opportunity to get information from larger entities, you know, Buncombe County and Wake County and Raleigh and all these different places. And I just want to take a couple seconds and tell you that Lou's folks and Melanie and all the folks here in Johnston County do a tremendous job. Just because they're bigger doesn't make them anywhere nearly as efficient. We're doing a lot of work with a few amount of people. There's organizations that have 3, 4, 5 people that do nothing but benefits management, and Ms. Proctor back there does it pretty much by herself with Lou's help and the team members over there. But they really do a great job, and that was very eye-opening to me, that how well things are run here and how far advanced we are in managing those benefits and the online portals and all the things that we're doing that other organizations that you would think would be beyond us, not even close. So I just want to say thank y'all for your hard work and dedication. That's really, really impressive. That's all I have.
As a county employee, I thought I was the only one that Ms. Proctor looked after.
And I think everybody feels the same way.
Right.
She looks after all of it.
I've got a couple of things, Mr. Chairman, and I should have broached this subject with staff perhaps, but I wanted to get it out and let's have some discussion about it. I know that we've been short-staffed in a lot of areas, especially with EMTs and ambulances and that sort of thing. And I know we've borrowed and shared resources between counties, but I've got some feedback recently from citizens that the response time has been prolonged in some instances, especially when ambulance has to come from, say, Harnett County, and that's understandable. I mean, you do with what you've got. But also, do we allow overtime within the EMT folks with the, you know, because I'm getting some mixed signals from people that says they don't allow overtime when it might make sense now with short staff to allow overtime. So I just throw that out. I don't know if you know, I know this is blindsiding you, Rick, and I don't know if you got any particular feel
right
for it.
back there, she could answer.
I remember a couple, excuse me,
Yeah.
Chairman. I remember a couple years back, I think Kevin, and I think we had some issues that we sort of brought before us about overtime, about hiring more staff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think maybe a couple budgets back, I think they hired some more staff. And I know that with adding the whole county
Right.
together now, I think maybe there's going to be a few more hiccups along them lines, and so
Yeah.
they sort of get their feet leveled out to where they
Yeah.
need to be. And I mean, and some of these shared partnerships, or is that what it's called? I mean,
I guess my concern is if there's a level of flexibility that needs to be employed, I hope it's not employed because they think we're holding a rigid line. You see what I mean?
Well, Mr. Chairman, if it's okay, I'd like to interject, and then, Lou, I know you'll have all the answers, but one of the things that everyone has to remember, that public safety in general is a first-come, first-served basis. There's not an ambulance for every residence in this county. And so if there's 50 ambulances or there's 100 ambulances, if there's 51 calls come in and there's 101 calls come in, that ambulance is going to have to come somewhere else. That's just a fact of the system. And I think we all have to, and I think our folks do a really good job, Kevin and his team, of trying to look at trends and peak times and all the different things. I know they do some peak time truck management, things like that, which is very crucial. But I think it's just a growing system, and I think we're going to have to grow with it as time goes on. As more and more people move in to the county, more and more people are going to have a need for EMS or fire or rescue or whatever the service is, or law enforcement, sheriff's folks as well. And so it's just, I think it's just trying to keep up with what the trends are. So, thank you, sir.
Do you have something, Lou?
Yes, sir. Part of our issues, I believe, with staffing is they're not immune to COVID either. And we do have some organizations highly recruiting some of our EMTs to go do other work. So we're having those types of issues.
Yeah.
We do allow them to work part-time or work overtime. Part of that issue is, though, we have time restraints on that. You do want to have your staff well rested when they come to work shifts.
Right.
So you've got some of that where we want them to be at their very best when they are out responding to our citizens.
Yeah.
And I do know, I've had conversations with emergency services, and they are looking at other ways to try and be more flexible, and try looking at the peak trucks and things like that.
Yeah.
So we're constantly working on trying to make sure we reduce that.
And I know right now, we've all got to be a little bit flexible with the COVID situation.
And if I could add too, you know, everybody knows our 911 center and all that, the technology that we have is tremendous. You know, such a way that, you know, with 2 interstates, soon to be 3 interstates coming through Johnston County, there's a lot of responsibility there with EMS.
Yeah.
But with our technology in 911, when we had that incident Mr. Harris was talking about where you've got several units out, they're able to see where those trucks are on the screen and dispatch as needed. So sometimes that happens too. So.
Right. Good. I have one other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
We're, of course, members of the North Carolina Association of County Commissioners. They hold training sessions from time to time. Next Thursday, I believe, the 27th, they've got a training session for new chairmen. And they're in a panel of different county manager, a county clerk, a county attorney, and a veteran chairman. And they've asked me to serve in that role, so I'll be doing that next Thursday.
Okay, I thought you were going to say I needed to go to the new chairman training.
I thought you said you needed training.
That's kind of what I heard.
No, I don't know who it's open. I guess it's open to the new chairman.
Find out if I could go to that. So I did have one final comment on the water and wastewater regionalization study, and since I'm the chairman, I get the last word. But what I want the public to know is what you heard tonight was not any disagreement on the importance of that water and wastewater regional study. I mean, it's very important, and I think all the commissioners recognize the importance of that to our future growth in the county. What you heard, at least in my opinion, was a difference in the process we needed to do to get there, and I think so we're there, and I think that's what I want the message for the public to be, that it is crucial to the growth and the future of Johnston County, and this board all sees it that way. So. Okay, all right, the county manager gets the last word.
And I apologize to Commissioner Smith because I've learned a lesson in terms of sometimes you send those emails out and you were traveling the whole time. So I apologize for that, and I've learned a lesson from that. So after all these years, I'm still learning. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Smith, you get the last motion of the evening for us.
Not yet.
I think.
No, you can't say.
No, into a motion. I thought you wanted to make your motion to go. Yeah, I'm sorry.
I move the board go into closed session for the purpose of consulting with an attorney employed by the board in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A3 to include Johnson County versus West, 18 CVS 1847, and to establish or instruct staff concerning the negotiations, the price, and terms of a contract concerning the acquisition of real property pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A5.
Second.
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The board will now move into closed session.